Imagine being so massive that even the fiercest predators thought twice before coming near you. Towering at over 13 feet tall, with tusks longer than a grown man, the woolly mammoth was a walking fortress, covered in thick fur layered with fat to survive the cold. It looked unstoppable. But here's the shocking part. Life as a mammoth wasn't the icy paradise you think it was. It was brutal, deadly, and filled with enemies you'd never expect. At first glance, you'd think the frozen tundra was perfect for them. They were built for snowstorms. Their curved tusks helped them dig through ice to reach buried grass. Their long, shaggy coats shielded them from freezing winds. They were survivors in one of the harshest environments on Earth. But survival came at a cost. Every single day was a gamble. Food, predators, and even the weather itself turned against them. Let's start with the land. Imagine waking up in an endless white desert. Sounds peaceful, right? Not for the mammoth. Because under that snow was nothing but disappointment. Grass was scarce, trees were dying, and mammoths needed hundreds of pounds of food every single day just to stay alive. Finding enough to eat was like searching for treasure in a wasteland. If they couldn't find it, they starved slowly, painfully, and even if they found food, they weren't safe. Because lurking in the shadows was an enemy that no thick fur or massive tusks could stop humans. Yes, us, small, weak-looking hunters with sharp minds and sharper weapons. One spear, on its own, was nothing to a mammoth, but dozens, thrown with deadly accuracy. That was a nightmare. Humans didn't fight fair. They used fire, traps, and teamwork. And for mammoths, that meant death wasn't always quick. Sometimes they were driven off cliffs. Other times they were trapped in pits, stabbed again and again while they struggled to rise. But predators weren't just human. Packs of dire wolves circled the young and the weak. Saber-toothed cats, with fangs like daggers, lurked in the icy dark. Even giant cave lions saw mammoths as walking meals. A healthy adult could fight them off, but calves, stragglers, they didn't stand a chance. And here's the twist. The cold that made them powerful was also their worst enemy. Because when the Ice Age ended, the very world that shaped them turned against them. Temperatures rose, ice melted, grasslands vanished. What was once a snowy kingdom became a muddy graveyard. But that wasn't the worst part. The real killer of the mammoths wasn't the cold, the hunger, or even predators. No, it was something far more shocking. And it's the reason they vanished forever. We've explored the icy landscapes where woolly mammoths thrived, their incredible adaptations, and the mystery of their extinction. But the story doesn't end there. Because the woolly mammoth is more than just a fossil. It's a symbol, woven into human history, culture, and even our future. For early humans, the mammoth wasn't simply an animal. It was a lifeline. Entire tribes depended on it. Its meat could feed communities for weeks. Its tusks and bones became tools, weapons, and even art. Some of the earliest known carvings in human history were made from mammoth ivory. When you think about it, the woolly mammoth wasn't just another species. It was one of the first great partnerships between humans and nature. But there's something haunting about that relationship. Because while mammoths helped us survive, it may have been our survival instincts that helped bring about their extinction. It's a reminder of how powerful humanity has always been, even before we built cities, machines, and technology. And here's where things get really fascinating. Mammoths never truly vanished from the Earth all at once. On the Siberian mainland, they disappeared about 10,000 years ago. But a tiny population actually survived on Wrangel Island, north of Russia, until just 4,000 years ago. That means when the pyramids of Egypt were being built, small herds of woolly mammoths were still roaming the frozen Arctic. Think about that. Mammoths existed in the same timeline as human civilization. Now, let's jump to today. Modern science is unlocking doors that once seemed impossible. Through genetic engineering, researchers are trying to resurrect the woolly mammoth by editing Asian elephant DNA with mammoth genes. The goal isn't just to bring them back for curiosity. There's a much bigger mission. Scientists believe that reintroducing mammoth-like creatures to the Arctic could actually help fight climate change. By knocking down trees and trampling snow, these giants could restore ancient grasslands which reflect sunlight and trap less heat. In other words, the comeback of the mammoth could play a role in saving our planet. But this raises big questions. Should we bring back extinct animals just because we can? Would they truly belong in our modern world? Or would it be cruel to revive them into a completely different environment? The woolly mammoth sits at the center of one of the greatest scientific and ethical debates of our time. On one hand, it's a chance to correct history, to see with our own eyes what our ancestors saw. On the other hand, it's a reminder that extinction is permanent for a reason, and that perhaps the lesson mammoths leave us is about protecting the species we still have today. In the end, the woolly mammoth isn't just a frozen relic of the Ice Age. It's a story of survival, extinction, and the incredible bond between humans and nature. A story that began thousands of years ago, and might not be finished yet. Because maybe, just maybe, one day in the near future, the thunder of mammoth footsteps will echo across the tundra once again. Now, let's step away from the oceans of the past and head to the icy tundras of the Ice Age, where one of the most iconic giants of prehistory roamed, the woolly mammoth. Standing nearly 13 feet tall and weighing up to 6 tons, the woolly mammoth was a true titan of the cold. With its long, curved tusks and thick, shaggy coat, it looked like something straight out of a fantasy novel. But this was no myth. These giants walked the earth alongside our own ancestors. The most striking feature? Those massive spiraling tusks, which could grow over 15 feet long. They weren't just for defense. Mammoths used them to shovel snow aside, uncovering grass and shrubs buried deep beneath the ice. In fact, these tusks were like multi-purpose tools, weapons, shovels, and even social displays during battles with rivals. But despite their fearsome size, mammoths weren't predators. They were herbivores, peacefully grazing across the tundra. Still, surviving in such brutal, freezing conditions wasn't easy. Their fur was thicker than a modern bison's, with an underlayer of wool so dense it trapped heat. Even their ears were small and rounded, designed to conserve warmth. Every part of their body screamed, built for survival. And yet, they didn't survive. The question that has fascinated scientists for centuries is, why did the woolly mammoth go extinct? There are two main theories. The first, climate change. As the Ice Age ended, the mammoths' frozen grasslands shrank, leaving them with less food and space to roam. The second theory is much closer to home: humans. Our ancestors hunted mammoths for food, clothing, and even shelter, using their bones as frameworks for tents. Cave paintings in Europe show vivid depictions of mammoth hunts, proving how important they were to early human survival. In truth, it was likely a combination of both: changing climates and relentless hunting that pushed the woolly mammoth to the brink. But here's the twist: the woolly mammoth might not be gone forever. In Siberia, scientists have uncovered frozen mammoth carcasses with flesh, fur, and even blood cells preserved in the permafrost. This has sparked serious discussions about de-extinction, using DNA to bring the mammoth back to life through cloning or genetic engineering. Imagine seeing a living, breathing woolly mammoth again after thousands of years. It sounds like science fiction, but teams around the world are already working on it. Whether they succeed or not, the legacy of the woolly mammoth reminds us of a powerful truth: even the mightiest creatures can fall when nature shifts or when humans play their part. And if these giants ever walk the earth again, they'll be more than just animals. They'll be living time travelers, reminders of an age when humans and beasts lived side by side on the edge of survival.